Hey there. Welcome to the IDP Plus Player Props Podcast, where if you're looking for some juicy tackle props to consider wagering on this week, you've come to the right place. Hold tight. Johnny and I are just about to get into our favorite tackle props for Week 16 of the NFL season. Welcome back to another week of the IDP Plus Player Props Podcast, where Johnny and I have been laying out about 8 players each week whose lines in particular we are very fond of, whether we've made our own bets or we've actually strongly considered them for bets that we've made of our own. Again, I'm going to remind everybody that these aren't even suggestions. We're just more or less laying out the research we've done to make potential bets or make actual bets of our own, and we're laying it out here for you guys, looking at just pointing out specific lines we like, overachievers with low lines, underachievers with high lines. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Again, I just want to remind everybody to bet responsibly. Let's stay within our means. If you feel like you have a problem and you could use help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So without further ado, I will go ahead and kick it off to Johnny for his first play of Week 16. What do you got for us, Johnny?
Yeah, so after looking this week, if you listen to my stuff before, I like a lot of obscure names, and that's what I'm going to give you with my first one. Pretty likely to happen. Not great odds, -155. But I got a guy named Will Harris from the Saints to get over 4.5 combined tackles this week. If we look at the hit mark, it's pretty well. 6 out of 11 games. That's just over half. But more impressively, 5 out of the last 5 games, he's hit this mark. 6+ tackles in the last 3 games, and those have been good matchups, granted, but we only need 5 here. He's got 6+ in the last 3 versus Green Bay this week, Week 16. Not a great matchup. Only 12.2 tackles allowed to the safety position by Green Bay. So again, not a great matchup. But if you look at the last 3 games, something's in the water with Will Harris, and I think this is a perfect example of somebody who's you take advantage of because they're a lesser known player. You can't get this on a Fred Warner. The books know him, but Will Harris is a converted safety, was a cornerback. So I don't know if they that's in their troubles here, but I think this is an awfully low marker, and I do expect it to go up to about 5.5. I probably still would take it, even though unless probably if it had plus odds, I'd take it. Other than that, I'm not really too interested. But Will Harris here at 4.5, I'm very interested. Last 3 games, again, we only need 5. Last week versus Washington, 9, blew it out of the water. The week before that, week 14, 6, one more than we need. And then the week before that versus the Rams, again, good matchups, but 6 tackles. So Will Harris has been safely hitting this marker. I get it. There might be bad weather. I'm not really too concerned about that. Will Harris seems to be, for a player that's playing 100% of snaps, he's going to be out there. He's going to be banging, and he definitely helps in the run support too. So if Josh Jacobs is a big part of this game, doesn't really matter what the game flow is. I think Will Harris here at 4.5 is just a low mark. So probably not something I'm throwing big money and risking it on the -155. It's not worth that. But if you parlay it, I think it's actually pretty safe right now. So that's my first pick, Axton.
Ever since he came back from injury in Week 10, he's just been on a tear. He's hit this in every week since. I mean, even the bye didn't really stop him in his momentum. 8 tackles, 5 tackles, 6, 6, 9. He's beating it by a pretty healthy amount. So, especially considering the offensive woes with New Orleans and that this defense has been on the field quite a bit just because the offense can't get anything going. I mean, Green Bay's just going to be running the ball all game because it's going to be a bloodbath. They're just going to walk all over New Orleans. So this defense is going to be on the field quite a bit. And I imagine that Will Harris will have plenty of opportunities to soak up a measly 5 tackles. So this could be something, honestly, that he could probably achieve in, third quarter or something like that. So I don't think it's going to be something you're going to have to sweat by any stretch. Oddly enough here, my first play of the week is going to be I'm going to keep it in the same game here. I'm looking at Pete Werner, actually. I'm going to hit his under here. His line was at 8.5 tackles, so I'm going to hit Pete Werner under 8.5 combined tackles. Comes in at -130. Same game against the Green Bay Packers. But there's a different side of this here where Johnny was talking about where Will Harris has been on a tear since coming back from injury, and he's been crushing his markers. Pete Werner has been historically an underperformer, and now that his line is at 8.5, I've often taken his unders at 7.5 and been hitting them. So for Vegas to up that to 8.5, I think this is a smash play. And again, I've hit he's been money for us on this under before. Before in the earlier in this season. So three of the last four linebackers to face Green Bay have actually missed the 9 tackle mark. So in the last couple of games, only one linebacker has hit this mark. So Pete Werner, if there's going to be a guy that's going to hit this mark, it's going to be Demario Davis. Pete Werner's just flat out not a guy in the New Orleans linebacker room. So again, he's actually only hit a 9. He's only had 1 9 tackle game or better all year long. So again, when you got a guy with uh, a high over under here at 8.5, he's got to get 9 tackles to get this, but he historically doesn't even hit this mark. That's just flat out that line is just way too high for Pete Werner. So this to me, it wouldn't matter what the odds were. I feel very confident in him being able to stay under 8.5. I know he's going to be on the field plenty, but it again, matchup just hasn't mattered at all this year. He's only hit it once, so I'm pretty confident in this one.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that, Axton, when you told me about that. And I usually don't miss much, so props to you for catching that. But Pete Werner here, like you said, another add him to the list. The Divine Diablos, the Tremaine Edmunds, those guys are on the
Mhm.
wall at our house because we salivate over lines like this. So yeah, great
Yeah,
pick. And you mentioned a good point too. If there's anybody getting that kind of line, it should be Demario Davis. Maybe he's at 9.5. I haven't checked that. I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but
I
that's it.
think I, I'll have to double check, but I think he was about an 8.5 was his line as well. I think they were both about that. He might even
And
be
that, yeah,
9.
that's definitely more
Go for it.
likely. So, yeah, Pete
Mhm.
Werner for only hitting this one time, great pick. He was good a few years ago, and even though this
Mhm.
is a mid-grade pack matchup, they have been better over the last three games, allowing tackles to the linebacker position. But yeah, I still don't foresee this one. So maybe that's what's in in the minds of whoever places these odds. But at the same time, Christmas is coming up, Ax, and we better write some of these guys who make these lines a Christmas card because we've
Yeah,
got
no
some
shit.
pretty good ones to take advantage of here. So I like that to add it to the list. For my next pick, I'm going to go to somebody who is a well-known guy for us, not only in the NFL but on this show. We often talk about him, and that's Buda Baker. And we're going for something modest here. We need over 2.5 assisted tackles. The line is set at -110. Now, I'm not really looking at defensive back assisted tackles, at a 2.5 marker and liking this right off the bat. That's a high marker for defensive back. But Buda Baker, I mean, one thing about him is just he's so consistent at getting tackles as a whole. Number one defensive back in the NFL as far as tackles. Nick Cross would be second, but yeah, these two, especially Buda Baker, these two just on another planet. We often mention Nick Cross too, but for this one specifically, Buda Baker, the reason why I picked it is looking at this hit percentage. 11 out of 14 games he has hit this, and you don't really see that number happen too often. So that just absolutely popped off the charts at me. And I know this is a bad matchup. It's against Carolina. They only allow 11.9 tackles per game to the safety position. So, as a matter of fact, though, the way Jalen Thompson and Buda Baker have been playing, Jalen Thompson in fantasy football has been borderline droppable because Buda Baker is just eating up all the tackles. So there's a good world where those 12 tackles might just go to Buda Baker, and of course Jalen Thompson sprinkles in 2 or 3, but that could be the type of game we're looking at. And of course, this is always on paper. When the rubber hits the road in the game, all this is out the window. It depends on the game flow of the game. And Buda Baker is just somebody we've seen him in well, I forget a few weeks ago. He was playing Seattle in Week 14. 10 assists in that game. 10 assisted tackles in that game. Of course, double-digit tackle game, but 10 of them were assisted. So any given time, in bad matchups, he's proved it. He's had 4 bottom 10 matchups when we look at the tackles, allowed to safeties per average. He's played bad teams 4 times. He's hit this marker in 3 out of 4. So another high percentage, 75% hit there. I have all the confidence in the world in Buda Baker. And this is, again, just a modest line. We know he can double this, triple this in any given game. So it's a modest line, pretty low here, and good odds at minus 110. And Buda Baker is just that stalwart. Anytime you have a defensive back coming to the top of the list as far as tackles in an NFL season, it's insurmountable. So Buda Baker to me is in a league of his own, and I'm not doubting him here at all. So pretty good odds and good pick here. I like it, Axton. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll put your banner up here while I talk you up. Sorry about that. Missed you there for a sec, but no, 142 tackles. That's how many tackles that Booty Baker has in the season. There's what 3 games left. It's only week 16. Guy's gonna have over 150 tackles easy. I mean, wow, we've seen only linebackers having 180 tackle games, and he could flirt with 160, 170 by the time the season's done. And a guy like that, I mean, has what 88 solos and 54 assisted tackles, and so that means he's averaging 3.6 assisted tackles a game. Like you said, he's only missed this 3 times all year, and he's averaging over a tackle more than what the line set at. Notorious tackle getter. I mean, multiple 10 tackle games and a healthy amount of assisted to solo ratio. So I like that play for Buda Baker. He's been one we kind of that we pick on to hit his over all year. Vegas just won't bring it up, so we'll just keep on hitting it. So I like that one, and the odds are pretty favorable too, damn near double your money. So I love that play. My next play, number 2 here for me, is going to be for Anthony Walker to hit his over on assisted tackles. His line is also at 2.5. And for a linebacker, that's what we love to see, especially a guy who is just notorious for getting, again, just a guy who just has a nose for the football, and a guy who's getting 100% of snaps, and also a guy who is playing the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this came in at, I'm not sure if I mentioned, came in at minus 125. But the 49ers have actually opponents, linebackers facing the 49ers, have hit this. 7 out of the last 10 linebackers have actually hit this. So in the last 5 games, 7 linebackers are hitting this. So at a 70% clip, it's, and historically it's always been a Shanahan scheme game where he's played 100% of snaps, he's hit this. And the only games where he hasn't, he just didn't play or he was injured and only played 30% of snaps. But good thing is by now he's actually had 2 weeks where he's played 90% or more of the snaps there in Miami. So he's looking to be healthy, and it's clear now, considering that Dodson was actually pushed to the bench after filling in for Anthony Walker while he was out. Anthony Walker's the LB2 there next to who is that? That's Jordan Brooks.
Brooks.
Not right. So yeah, gotta remind myself here. Him and Queen, I get mixed up often. They're kind of the same kind of player, just that LB2 that's kind of grown into their own new role here. So, yeah, next to Brooks, it's definitely Anthony Walker. He's hit this in every game that he's played all game. He seems to be healthy. He actually has more assists than he does solos this season, so that's very encouraging. So give me the. I'm gonna smash this play at 2.5 assisted tackles and minus 125. The odds aren't too bad there. So 49ers are allowing nearly 17 tackles per game to linebackers this season. I think Anthony Walker should have no problem being able to chew some meat off the bone here and get his 3 assisted tackles this week. So what do you think about that, Johnny? And then we'll get into your next play as well.
Right. Hey, man, like you said, every game he's healthy, he hit this, and this is a great find again by you, Axton. Not a really household name, but again, an obscure name that is going to help you get to payday. So Anthony Walker Jr., like him, as long as he stays healthy, he's in a good spot. And there's a couple games where he got hot there in the middle of the season. It was 9, 10 tackle games sandwiching together, and those were 4 and 6 assist games, Axton. So if he can get back to that level, looks like he's healthy, started playing 100% of snaps and came out with no setbacks. So I like that pick a lot. It's a good modest pick, and one that most people don't really entertained because they don't really know who it is. So that's why we're here doing our research. Once again, good find there, Axton. So for my next pick, I'm going to go for a defensive back here. Somebody who doesn't really have a lot of stats to talk about this year, but they all point to good things for this bet, and that is Talanoahufanga over 5.5 combined tackles. So Talanoahufanga um, played one healthy season. I'm sorry, one healthy game in the beginning of the season versus the Rams. In that game, week 3, he didn't make his debut until week 3. Played one healthy game, 7 tackles, so that checks out right there. That's 1 for 1. Then misses a game, plays a couple snaps in week 5, and then is out again. So all those other games are voided. The one he missed, the one he played 1 snap, we're not looking at those. So he's 1 for 1 so far. Now he comes back finally in week 14 versus Chicago, which is not a great matchup by any means, but it's not the worst you can get. So we'll call it a middle grade matchup. In that game, 74% of snaps he played, which is routine for getting a player off a 6-7 week layoff back in the starting lineup. So to see him get back healthy was one thing, but the fact that in those 74% snaps he had 5 tackles in this mediocre matchup. So to me, that was a number when I saw that I took heat of Hufanga as somebody who could garner tackles. Then the next week, as a matter of fact, against the Rams again, maybe it's the matchup, you can call it whatever, but again, a decent matchup, a little bit on the better hand than on the worse hand. But in the game, the second game versus the Rams, 8 combined tackles. So, and that was 97% of games. I'm sorry, 97% of snaps. And that's last week, week 15. So, week 16, I expect him to play at least 97, somewhere close to 100%, 97, 100%. It doesn't really matter. 8 tackles last week. It was a good matchup. Guess what? He's going to get even a better matchup this week. Hopefully, some more snaps too versus Miami, who actually allow the second most tackles to safeties out of the whole NFL with 15.7 a game. And while Hufanga is coming off this injury, and to me surprised me because he didn't seem like somebody before this year. He seemed like a big play type of guy, not really somebody to rack up the tackles. But of course, we did see splashes here and there. But it seems like this year, the games he's played healthy, he's put all the pieces together. And to me, in this game, I see 2 teams that are fighting for life in their playoff hopes between Miami and San Francisco. So I think there's going to be a lot of passing in this game. Of course, we know right now Tyreek Hill is questionable. We know that Jalen Waddle has already been ruled out. So this game's going to be something crazy. But anyhow, I think that Miami's going to be down, or it's going to be a competitive game. They're going to have to throw the ball regardless, and it's a great matchup. So Hufanga, we're not asking too much, and the best part about it is we're getting juice. This is plus 100. If it was minus 140, I'm probably not here talking about it, but getting it for plus 110, something that we is proven. We've seen the proof in the pudding. I like this bet a lot, Axton. I'm interested to see what you think about it.
Yeah, that you really like to see a guy come back from his injury, and I mean, only 74% of snaps he got or half a tackle under this mark. One technically, you can't get really half a tackle, but to just barely hit that under. In your first game back from injury is very encouraging, and then to see that roll over into hitting the over the following week when he does get the snaps, that's very, very encouraging. And then you're looking at the great matchup. I mean, there should be plenty of long drives. I imagine there's not going to be too awfully much. There's not going to be too much punting in this game, and if it is, it's not going to be just early 3 and outs. It's going to be pretty long, grueling drives. I think the over/under on the points for this game was like 44. So Vegas is not really sure that this is going to be a high-scoring affair, but they're not really counting it out either. So there's potential in this game, and I think that there's going to be a lot of sustained drives. I think there's going to be plenty of snaps on either side of the ball. So I think Hufanga is going to be. He's going to have plenty of opportunity to get in there and get his tackles, and he's shown it clearly so far this season that he's going to be consistent in that aspect when he gets the snaps. So we just kind of hope he stays right up there around that. What did you say, 100%? I don't know if he had 100, but
97.
90. So 90+% of snaps is what we like to see, and so especially in a great matchup. So I like that, especially with some plus juice. We've been just kind of Now we've actually got a few plus. We've got some extra juice for y'all this week, so the remainder of our picks are going to be plus odds. So yeah, we found some good ones this week that we really like. So I like that to start us out on the plus odds side of the ball here. Now, my next pick, before we get into a quick break to talk about a sponsor, uh, pay some bills here. I'm going to talk a little bit about Tremaine Edmunds, a guy who's been featured on this show before. If you've been here before, you definitely know that I've played some Tremaine Edmunds unders this season. So this week the line is set at 8.5 tackles plus 100. He plays at home versus Detroit. I know on paper this is an outstanding matchup for linebackers. Detroit runs the ball very well. They run the ball a lot, and opposing linebackers often just soak up tackles. But I mean, he's at 8.5 tackles. He's only hit over 8.5 tackles 3 times so far this season. So this under's actually hit 78% of the time. Dang near 80%. 8 out of every 10 times he's going to hit the under. So he actually played Detroit just a couple of weeks ago. He only had 5 tackles in that game. Didn't even sniff 9 tackles. So I really like the odds here, and considering that he's more of the coverage linebacker, and TJ Edwards is more of the run stuffer. I just like the I mean, it really hasn't mattered the matchup. He's only hit the over on 8.5 3 times this season, and he's clearly not one of those guys that's been overachieving in great matchups, and he's proven to us time and time again that he will underachieve week after week. So he hasn't consistently. Of course, there's been times where I picked on him on the 1 week where he does hit the over, but I feel confident that 8.5 has been probably the highest line that he's seen all year. So I'm definitely smashing under on a notorious under hitter, I guess, if you want to say that for lack of better terms. So what do you think about Tremaine Edmunds under? And then we'll get into a quick ad read, Johnny.
What do I think about it, man? I love it because we were talking last week. You had missed the show. You weren't able to be there. So I gave out 5 picks, and he was the last one to make it 5 for 5. So he made it good for me. So I'm hoping he pays you back too a little bit this week, Axton. And maybe I'm surprised in that it is 8.5. That's a steep line. I talked about him last week when he was at 7.5, and I liked it. Then I saw later in the weekend that it went to 8.5. I smashed that, won a couple bets myself. With Tremaine Edmunds being part of parlays. So it was a good pick, and I think 8.5 again. They're going to go back to the well. So should we. So great pick there, Axton. Like it a lot. I like you said, man. History is we have a lot of the data in week 4, week 3. We didn't have that data. Now we do. He played Detroit, 5 tackles, so that's encouraging. I'm just wondering, maybe this line was stuck there. I'm interested to see life without David Montgomery there with the Lions. Um, Maybe because that Tremaine Edmunds. The only reason I could see it, the only way I could see it going south is if they're not being able to run the ball as much, and they dump it to Gibbs, or I don't know. It's just something in the water. But like you said, man, history. I'd hit it too. And the bottom line is, if it was minus 100, you consider all that. But for plus 100, when you look at the history, it's all dust in the wind. So it's a great bet, and I'm gonna end up putting it in some parlays tonight. So another great find by you, Axton. Before I get into my last pick, I just wanted to mention to all those viewers and subscribers who rocked with us all year, we appreciate you. We got a couple more weeks. We're not done yet. Fantasy playoffs is coming up, but playoffs we still have some bets. So looking forward to keep giving you these hits here. And if you are subscribed, thank you. If you are not and you'd like to become a subscriber to our IDP Plus channel, which we have multiple betting shows, not just tackle props, but check it out. If you want to subscribe, you can go right to idpplus.com/membership, hit enter, hit return, and then you'll go right to the subscription page. And please use the promo code PROPS because you will get 20% off your membership. So once again, idpplus.com/membership, promo code PROPS to get your 20% off subscription now. So heading into my last pick, my biggest juice, I'm going to make a case. I feel like I'm in court right now for this one. He's a cornerback, daronbland. I need him to get over 1.5 assisted tackles, and I love the line another one. And if it's minus 140, I'm not looking at it. But for plus 140, when it's hit 3 out of 4 games so far, yeah, I'm seriously considering this one. So let's talk about daronbland. Didn't make his season debut. I like these hurt guys. We like these hurt guys. Walker, Hufanga. Now we're
Mhm.
talking about Bland. Didn't make his season debut until week 12. That game was versus Washington. Showed right up. 3 solos, 3 assists. Week 13 plays the Giants. Another good matchup. 6 solos, 3 assists. We're talking about a corner. This is 2 for 2 now. Week 14 versus Cincinnati. 2 solos, 3 assists. Week 15, last week versus Carolina. Guess what? Vegas sees this and they set the line low. 0-0. No tackles last week. It was the worst matchup out of those 4 games so far. So I'm kind of putting an asterisk next to this one. I'm looking at this week specifically, week 16 versus Tampa Bay, and I see green pastures. Tampa Bay allows the 5th most tackles to game on average to cornerbacks with 14.8, and daronbland playing majority of snaps, getting back and healthy and back to his snap count, is going to absolutely be picked apart. Not necessarily with bad play, but picked on, I should say. It looks like Jalen McMillan. It doesn't matter if he's covering Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan. Both of these guys have showed volume in the passing game as of recent, especially Jalen McMillan coming up with that extension he's had. Cade Otton is not going to be likely to play this game. He's doubtful right now, which means both of these guys are going to get even more love on the outside. So daronbland, number one, he's been doing it. He hit this 3 out of the 4 games so far. Last week was fluky. I'm not sure if exactly what the reason was in Carolina, but I know it was a sloppy game. Maybe Dallas wasn't on the field too much. I know Eric Kendrick's tackle mark was down. So I'm putting an asterisk next to that one. I'm looking forward to this one, man. Great matchup. I expect Tampa Bay to win this game, and a lot of throwing. And now that we hear that Otton's out, a lot of throwing to the outside. So, great odds, great matchup, and great track record. I think daronbland here, 1.5 assists, getting the over for plus 140 is a great look. Axton, what do you think about it?
I like it. I mean, he's so far he's played in three, or he's had 4 games since he came back. Hitting this in 3 out of those fours is outstanding. And I think what we can attribute last week to is just kind of the fall down, the coming back down to earth of the Panthers quarterback Bryce Young. He was kind of on a tear there for a good 3 or 4 week stretch where the offense was really humming. And last week, most of his yardage came on the back of a 70-yard catch to Jalen Coker. Otherwise he'd have had maybe 140 yards passing. So there was just not a lot of successful passing last week. He only had like 19 completions. There's just not a whole lot you can do whenever all Bryce Young is really doing is just hitting quick short slants and then one of them breaks off. I mean, there's not a lot of opportunity for him there. But when you're playing against Baker Mayfield, who's completing 22 passes a game minimum, sometimes upward of 25 or more per game. I mean, they're going to be throwing the ball plenty as they have recently, and Baker's been on a tear. Now with Trayvon Diggs going out for the season, I imagine that that's only going to be exacerbated. That Baker Mayfield's probably going to be picking on the opposite side of the field. But Baker likes to spread the ball. He's not afraid to hone in on a single guy, but he's also not going to leave anybody out as well. So I like that play. All that daronbland has to get is a measly 2. He's crushed the over. He's had 3 in any game where he's had tackles. He's one of those guys that will just kind of split it up a little bit. But I mean, he's had I can't remember what I was looking at, like 6 tackle floors or 5 or 6 tackle floors since came back this year. So he's really just been kind of padding the stat sheet. So I like that play, especially for a guy who's cornerbacks typically you often see maybe 1, maybe 2 assisted tackles because there's just not a lot of other teammates around them to assist with the tackle. But Trayvon Diggs likes to get in the mix clearly. So with these splits, I like that play. 1.5 should be fine for him. And at plus 140, that's some great juice. I love that. For my last pick to wrap up the show, we've gone a little lengthy this week. I guess I just missed being back. I missed the show. Glad to be back. Got a little extra wordy, so we'll keep this one a little shorter and sweeter. It's another guy who's been on the show before. I'm actually going to hit Nick Cross's over on his solo tackle line at plus 110 this week, and he plays Tennessee. Now, I know what you're thinking. This looks like a bottom end matchup overall, but that's a tribute to Will Levis's non-success all year. He's had to rely on big plays for the most part, which just doesn't lend well to opposing safety production or just defensive production on the other side of the ball. So now that Will Levis has been benched as of last week, they've confirmed that Mason Rudolph will be starting for the Tennessee Titans this week, and he operates far more efficiently. So we'll see a lot more sustained, longer drives for Tennessee, which means that Indianapolis is going to be on the field plenty. And Nick Cross has just been a tackle monster all year. So he's actually hit this in 65% of the games and of the games so far this season, and 4 of the last 6. So I think this is a sneaky good change for us to be ahead of the books on this and get some plus cash, because I don't think the books are accounting for this Mason Rudolph's offense nearly quite what they should be. I would not be surprised if they up this to 5.5 solo tackles by the time Sunday comes around. So again, four plays this week with plus money. Let's finish it off with some plus 110 here. So Nick Cross, bring it home for us. I will throw out as well that over the course of the last month, Johnny and I total have been on a 72% hit rate. So we've had a pretty good last month. We're hoping to carry that in. Like Johnny was saying earlier, now that we've got some good data, we can really be able to see trends and pick up on things as they happen each week. And DraftKings has actually been kind enough to put out plenty of good lines in that time. I think since we started, that's when they actually really picked up on putting the lines out earlier and getting more lines available to us. For much of the season, it was kind of pretty bland. It was a lot of the same guys each and every week. So now we're playing a lot of the same guys, but we do have some new guys sprinkled in here, and the lines are kind of looking a little bit different. We feel like we have a lot more to play on, and we've had some success with it. So let's hope we can carry this into another week. We got 8 guys for you. Let us know if you tail any, if any hit, if you guys have any plays that you like. Pick and choose, play your parlays, play some strats. Let us know, or play some straight bets. Let us know how things end up for you guys. Hopefully, we strike a chord with you one way or another, and let's see if we can make some extra cash. Take those significant others out to a nice little date this weekend or something. So, good luck, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you for checking out our show, and if you're a returner, thank you for coming back to us. And if it's your first time, we hope you come back. So we'll see you back next week, as usual, for week 17 of the IDP Plus Player Props podcast. So thanks again, everybody, and good luck. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.